Welcome back, everybody. I hope everyone is doing well. This video is going to be near and dear to my heart because this is the video where I explain what Gnosticism really is. And I don't know how long it's going to take, but this is going to be a very in-depth video. And I even have a few notes written down, just kind of help me help me center my ideas. All right. So we'll start with how I learned about Gnosticism. And Gnosticism is something that is never really talked about. It's something that not a lot of people are aware of. I mean, these days with the internet, I feel like more and more people are hearing about it, and most of the people that do hear about it end up being Christians or Catholics, and they feel the same way they felt about it back then, which people think is just blasphemy. They think it's heresy. And a little fun history lesson is that the Gnostics were all wiped out by the Roman Church because it was labeled heresy. And yeah, basically the reason that nobody knows what a Gnostic is these days is because they were all wiped out. There was a genocide that happened, a literal genocide that was acted out by the church to completely eradicate all traces of Gnosticism, which really breaks my heart. And I learned about Gnosticism only from years of studying esoteric information. I didn't even know about it till fairly recently, and I was a student of the occult for many years. With that being said, there's a real big reason why this religion is not really known about. The origin of Gnosticism begins around, it was around 100 years after Christ was killed, and it was one of the early Christian sects. In fact, some would even argue that they were the original Christians. That's the belief that I subscribe to because I think that they actually had the true teachings of Christ, especially once we start getting into more of the actual story of Gnosticism and what it actually says. I truly believe that the original message of Yahshua was what Gnostics believe. Now, the reason I resonate so much with it is because when I was a kid and I started learning about all these spiritual ideas, such as leaving your body and how we live in a prison planet and people are stuck in a cycle of reincarnation, all of these ideas always resonated with me a lot. So I never had any belief. Like, I didn't really think there was a belief of that. It was just a combination of many different kinds of beliefs. But I didn't actually think there was a whole religion that has these concepts in it. Which is actually why when I discovered Gnosticism, I was like, this is insane because this religion literally is almost everything that I have believed my whole life. And with that being said, I'll get into a little bit of the teachings. So you guys might have heard this, but there's a lot of people that say how Christ was basically teaching others that divinity is within you, and how you don't need a church and you don't need religion to find God. I've heard this my whole life, and I've always wanted to believe that that's what he really meant. But once I found Gnosticism, I was like, oh wow, they literally say that that's what he meant. So to me, that's confirmation. I know a lot of Christians won't feel the same because people are heavily, heavily subscribed to their religion and to what the teachings are, which in my opinion, no offense, and I don't want to offend anybody, although I'm going to definitely offend people throughout these videos, so it's kind of inevitable. But to me, what Christianity is today, and what a lot of religions are today, is complete propaganda designed thousands of years ago in order to establish power, wage wars, and establish territory. That is what I believe the function of religion was. And the reason that they used religion and not government was because they needed to have a real hold on people. Now, let's say you come to a population and you're trying to control a population. And you would say, all right, guys, if you commit murder or if you steal from somebody, you're going to go to jail or you're going to get killed, right? But then the people are like, okay, well, I just won't get caught, right? I just won't get caught. And if they kill me, so what? Or if they put me to jail, so what? I can break out of jail, right? But if you tell people that, hey, if you do these bad things that are against the law, right, God's law, then God he's not a human, right? Because like a person has to find you committing the crime. He has to find you and incarcerate you. But God is everywhere, right? God is everywhere. So he will see any crime you commit. And not only will he see any crime that you commit, you're going to go to forever hell or forever jail, where basically you're going to, when you die, see, death is not even the worst thing anymore. It's not just like, oh, you're going to die, we're going to kill you. No, when you die, you're going to go to the worst dimension imaginable, the worst evil, nightmarish, fucked up plane of reality where demons are torturing you and your soul dies over and over again. And it's dark and fiery and all these horrible, scary, spooky things, right? When a person thinks about that, it's like, oh, God forbid, I don't want to go there. God, anything but hell, anything, right? So they will accept any kind of doctrine that the church will give them because, oh my God, hell is so terrifying. I'll do anything. I'm the fear of God. They always talk about how you have to have the fear of God. Let me explain this to you really quick. That is an oxymoron. Okay, that is an oxymoron. The fear of God, those two words should not be in the sentence together. Fear and God. Humans shouldn't fear God ever. Okay? I'm not going to sit here and claim to know what God is. Even as a Gnostic myself, we have an idea of what God is, and I'll get into the actual explanation of what Gnosticism is. I just want to cover this really quick, which is the history of it. And even though Gnostics believe in a different kind of God than what the church believes in, I still don't, and Gnostics also say this, that we can't comprehend God. There is no true way for a human being to actually understand what God is, not to mention know what God would want out of us, okay? Now that's kind of 50-50, because Gnostics actually do believe there's a certain way to live, and I personally think that what Gnostics think God wants out of you is way more rational. It makes way more sense than what the Christian God or the Abrahamic God wants, okay? Because all you have to do in the Christian religion or the Catholic religion, whatever, to get into heaven, right, is you just have to accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, okay? Now, let's just kind of touch upon this really quickly. So you could be the most vile, evil, shitty person, straight up just, on Hitler's level or Genghis Khan or like just super evil. And, you could rape, murder, kill. You guys get the idea, right? And then if you just accept Jesus Christ as God, right? If you literally say that, oh, this man that was on earth is literally God, right? Is literally God himself coming down in the flesh, then dying for your sins, you can go to heaven. But here's the thing. If you're an amazing person, if you do great things, if you give charity, if you love your neighbors, if you are an amazing human being, but you're Buddhist, right? Or you're Jewish, right? Or you're Muslim, right? Or you're literally anything else, you're going to go to hell, buddy. You're going to go to hell. No matter how good you are, no matter what you did, if you do not accept Christ as your Lord and Savior, you're going to the worst imaginable dimension where there is no redemption, right? No redemption for eternity. For eternity. I mean, guys, look, if you're Christian and you're watching this video, just think about it. Just really come on, just give it some thought, right? How insane does that all sound? Right? How insane does that all sound? How can you be a rational person and still have a belief like that, right? That the worst person, if they accept Christ, will go to heaven, but the best person, if they don't, they go to hell. It's the most nonsensical religion that exists. And I don't care about all the hate that'll get me. And I don't even want to get into the other religions as of right now, because Gnosticism comes from Christianity. So Christianity should have been what Gnosticism is. So we just talked about what Christianity is and the central beliefs that has. And now we're going to actually get into what Gnosticism teaches, okay? So this is going to be a long one, so I just want you guys to stick with me here a little. Let's talk about what Christ means first. This is very important, okay? We're going to discuss who Christ actually was, okay? So Yahshua, his real title was Yahshua of the Christ, okay? And what that means is that he was a man, a regular man, don't come at me, right? He was a regular man who was of the Christ. What this means is that any human being can be of the Christ. And whenever it says in the Bible that you can only do things through Christ, or you can only get to God, or you can get to my Father through me, when he says those things, that really means that you don't get to God through literally Jesus Christ. See, this is another problem that Christians do. They say that everything is literal in the Bible, which is the dumbest thing you can possibly say ever, because you have a book of fairy tales and you're going to say that it's literal? Everything back then, any wisdom, any knowledge that was worth anything was locked behind metaphors. It was locked behind codes, and only certain people that were wise enough were able to decipher these codes and actually get the real knowledge from the text. It's not like you just read a text and you would become enlightened. That's not how it works. But Christianity will say that it's exactly how it works. So it's like, okay, getting back to what Christ originally means. So Christ is within every person. What do I mean by that? Every single person has chakras, okay? Now, there are many words to describe chakras. You can call them states of consciousness. You can call them, chakras. You can call them pressure points, spiritual points in the body. And ultimately, it's not that important. What's important is that your ascension process as a human and as a soul begins from the bottom and it goes to the top. So it starts at the bottom chakra, which is the root chakra, which is centered around your groin area, okay? And there's a bunch of chakras that all lead up into your third eye, and then eventually to your crown, okay, which is all the way on top. So what you're doing is you're starting from all the way at the bottom, and you're rising, you're taking your energy and rising it and ascending it to get to Christ. And Christ is in here, okay? But in order to get to Christ, you have to go through the entire ascension process, okay? And that, has many different names, enlightenment, Christ consciousness, solar consciousness. There's a lot of terms, there's a lot of names for this all throughout history. Okay, and Yahshua, he basically knew this because he traveled the world gaining wisdom and enlightenment, and he wanted to share that with humanity. That was his mission. Yahshua was a messenger of God. He was a messenger. He was not God, okay? He was not God himself. You don't need to, in fact, if you think he's God, you're missing the point. You're quite literally shutting yourself out from the true message that Christ had, okay? And this is what Gnostics teach, is that this world was created by an evil God, okay? But let's not use the word evil because he's not evil, okay? This God is the God of the physical plane. So to make it very simple for everybody, there's two gods. There is the real God, which the real God is the source of all creation, okay? Just think about it like that. That God is just endless creation. That's all it is. It's not really something we can truly understand. But this God, he is where everything originates from, the starting point. And I don't even want to say he, because it's not a he at all. Okay? It's not, there's no noun, there's no pronoun that this being has. Okay? This is just the source of all creation. And there is another being that is in charge of creating the physical realm. So there is a spiritual God and a physical God. The God of this world is the physical God, which they claim is evil because that God has a job, okay? That whole the whole job that God has is to keep humanity here. It's to keep the physical world going, okay? In other words, it's to keep souls trapped on this planet. And that's kind of how the Gnostics viewed it. They saw that God basically wants to keep human souls trapped here forever because he was jealous that he was an imperfect being and that there was another God out there who was a perfect being who wanted to create these things called humans. The problem is the physical world already existed. The physical world was supposed to be entirely different, and there's a lot of reference to that in the Garden of Eden story and how there's the tree of knowledge and the tree of life. And then God kicked us out of the Garden of Eden and all of these different things. That story, I can't even get into it right now. I actually can't even get into any of the real stories like in Gnosticism right now, because this video would be over an hour. And I don't necessarily want to have a video that's over an hour, because I already know people struggle watching my videos that are like 10 minutes, So I'm not gonna waste my time. At least not yet. I'd rather make videos on it separately. But for now, I just want to kind of get these central ideas out. So the central idea is that Jesus Christ was a messenger of the true God who we all come from. And that God is within every single person, because everything was created with the spark of divinity, and every single human has that spark of divinity within them, okay? Which means that you don't need church, you don't need religion, you don't need anything to find God or find Christ, because it's all within you. If you do the ascension process within yourself, you can reach God in this lifetime, and then you don't have to be stuck on this planet anymore. When you reach Christ consciousness, you have free will over your soul. And when you have free will over your soul, you can choose if you want to incarnate or not again on this planet, okay? And this is very important, because religion will never give you that. Religion is designed to keep your soul coming back. So if you truly want to break free, you have to break free of religion, okay? And the reason I talk so much about Christianity is because Gnosticism was Christian. If you think of the word Christian, right? Christian, right? That means to be of Christ. And technically speaking, Christianity could have been the true religion. I would have proudly been a Christian if being Christian meant what it was supposed to mean. The problem is the Roman Catholic Church and the Romans, okay? It was the Romans that essentially decided they were going to adapt this religion into their empire and use that religion to spread their empire. And there was the Council of Nicaea, which created the canonical biblical text, which completely twisted a lot of the teachings and cut out a lot of the gospels, the Gnostic gospels, in order to have a religion that suits their needs. So what they did was they just switched a bunch of things around in order to create a religion that promotes the domination of their empire, essentially. And not only that, like I mentioned earlier, they wiped out the early Christians. They completely wiped out all the Gnostics and burned all the books. And it's tragic, and nobody talks about this. This isn't taught in schools. This is something you have to figure out on your own, and this is real history, And it's tragic that people don't know this, that the real Christians were essentially wiped out, and it was replaced by a fake religion to confuse people and, have people, basically go the total opposite direction of what Yahshua was trying to do. Okay? It's crazy stuff, honestly. Okay. Man, this is going to be a long one. It's probably going to be about 30 minutes, something like that. So I hope you guys hang with me here and kind of listen to the entire thing, because there's a lot of information here. Not only is Gnosticism great for enlightenment and great for ascension, these Gnostics, they were vegan. They didn't believe in killing. They didn't believe in death. They thought, they even went as far as to not even believe in marriage, because they didn't want to bring more souls into this prison. I will admit that is a little bit extreme. And some of their views are a little bit extreme, I admit. But extreme in what sense? Extreme that they didn't want to bring more harm and pain and suffering into this world. While Christianity, what did they do? Oh, Gnosticism is extreme because they didn't want to have children, or they didn't really believe in marriage. Well, Christians believed in literally going around the world, killing and dominating parts of the world to spread their religion by torturing, murdering, and raping millions of people during their bullshit crusades, right? And that's not extreme, right? Nobody really wants to talk about that anymore. Meanwhile, the Gnostics literally wanted peace. They wanted to have as much peace as possible, and they believed in the true teachings of Christ, where you're not a maniac monster that just goes around killing, murdering, and raping. How could a religion of God, of love and peace and understanding even have crusades? How could it even have crusades? It wouldn't, because it isn't a religion of God. All the Abrahamic religions are war religions, okay? They're war religions that promote warfare, domination, and sabotage in order to push their agenda, in order to push their religion as far as they can into the world. How could a loving and all-knowing God want that for his people. He wouldn't. That's the short answer. Okay? Because the true God would not want any of this to happen. Okay? But you know what God would want that to happen? The God of the physical world, because the God of the physical world is flawed. Now I'm going to tell you guys something really crazy. The original idea of Satan comes from the God of the Bible. Okay? Now I know that's crazy. I know that's really crazy. But hear me out. You have to understand that in the Bible, all these demands, the way that this God even speaks, the way that he, if you pay attention, and I grew up on this stuff. I grew up going to religious camps and religious, those programs and everything. And I learned the Old Testament, and the New Testament. And the way that the God speaks, it's like, even as a kid, I would be like, I'm a jealous God. There's no gods but me. Sacrifice your son to me, like how he wanted to make Abraham sacrifice his son to see. It's like, haha, okay, bro, like, go kill your son. Oh, right when he was about to kill him, no, I'm just kidding. It's like, and not to mention how he wiped out, Sodom and Gomorrah, and there were times where God sent angels and to decimate entire cities, right? Or Noah's Ark, where he just entirely was like, you know what, fuck it, let's restart. Let's restart. Let me wipe the world. We're mad at Hitler. We're mad at all these figures and stuff because they're like, oh, let's rid the world of these people. Let's do a genocide. But the God in the Bible that you guys worship literally said, hey, let me genocide all of humanity. Let me genocide all of humanity and restart. And you guys are cool with that. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, makes sense. No, it doesn't. It doesn't make sense, okay? Because in the Gnostic texts, there was always a battle between the true God and the evil God, Satan, or Saturn. This is where Satan comes from, Saturn comes from, is the planet Saturn, actually, because all the gods that we believe in today originally come from celestial bodies, okay? And this God that became Yahweh, the God of the physical world, he is where the Christians, when they were making the canonical Bible, right, or the canon Bible, however you say it, they switched the roles of everyone. They switched everything up. So they basically made God Satan. They made Jesus, who was a messenger of God, God, right? They just made him God, even though he wasn't God. He was just a messenger of God, but they made him God. And they switched things up. They just did a little switcheroo. They're like, all right, this is how it's going to be. And this is going to really allow us to keep people in the dark while giving us tremendous amount of power. It's genius, but it's hella fucking evil, okay? So you have to just kind of think like Christians are basically Romans. They're not real Christians. You guys are just Romans, okay? Which is really sad to say. And I personally, I'm personally very unhappy about that. I don't want to touch upon the other religions in this video. I will because, it feels like I'm bashing Christianity a lot, and it's only because I'm very passionate about the true Christian beliefs, which you guys, most people, to you is blasphemy, is heresy, right? That's the whole point. They want the truth to be heresy. They want the truth to be blasphemy. So, what are you going to do? Okay, and basically, if you look at it this way, if you look at the world as a hell, quick thing. Sorry, I'm just going to get into this really quick. So the actual idea of hell, okay, the actual idea of hell, right, comes from this world. It comes from this world, okay? Let me say that for you guys a little slower. The idea of hell that originated in Christianity, that it's this demonic, evil, fucked up place, actually comes from this world we're in. So guys, we are literally in hell. This is hell. There is no hell. There is no hell besides this one. Okay? And Gnostics believe that, which means it allowed them to navigate this world a lot better because all the suffering, all the pain, all the death that we experience it could make a lot of sense if you just accept that that's the whole point. The whole point of this physical world is suffering. That's the whole point. That's why it's hell. Because our souls are limitless creatures. Well, I don't want to say creatures. Are limitless beings, okay, that truly are like angels or gods or whatever you want to call it. But when we're in these human bodies, we are extremely limited. We are extremely limited. Excuse me. And let me ask you a question. What would be hell to a limitless being? Think about that for a second. What would be hell to a limitless being? Limits. And what is this world? This world is all about limitation. And Saturn, which is the god of this world, is the god of limitation. He is the god of limitation, which therefore means that the God of the Bible is the God of limitation. And he is the God that wants to keep you in limitation. He wants to keep souls reincarnated, because you'll keep reincarnating. You'll keep reincarnating if you don't have knowledge, and if you don't have enlightenment, and if you don't reach gnosis, you will keep reincarnating. And religion is not meant to give you answers. It's designed to keep you reincarnating. Okay? So this is why I'm such a big fan of Gnosticism, because it truly helps you make sense of the world. Like, I haven't heard a religion that truly makes sense to me my whole life. There were religions I liked, there were ideas I enjoyed, but there was never something where I looked at it and I'm like, you know what? This actually gives me a good idea of life. And Gnosticism really is. It really was that for me, because I'm like, wow, you know, that just makes everything make so much more sense. We're trapped here. We're limitless beings that are trapped here in this limited world. This limited world is about suffering, pain, death, and the goal is to not perpetuate that cycle. The goal is to bring God's heaven, or God's teachings, the real God's teachings, to this planet and make this planet heaven on earth, instead of keeping it a hell. Religion and other institutions is what keeps this world hell. Greed, corruption, all of these different things, you know, this is what keeps this world a hellscape. But we have the power, we have God's true divinity within us in order to bring heaven to earth. You guys follow me? And if we actually know the truth and we know God's true teachings, we can do that. We can't do that if we're believing in bullshit, if we're believing in lies, okay? All right, let's move on a little bit. Okay, we got through a lot of it. Got through a lot of it here, actually. Okay. There's some of it here that I'm not going to get into because this video already did go on for a little bit too long. And I definitely feel like I've covered quite a bit. And I definitely want to know everyone's opinion. I know this was a very long video. There was a lot of information. There was a lot of ranting. And I just, you know, I want this to get spread. I want this message to kind of reach a lot of people. And if you guys enjoyed, if you guys believe in what I'm saying, if it makes sense to you, please like the video, please subscribe. And please comment, because I love hearing people's opinions, you know, but don't be a fucking hater. Don't be an asshole. If you disagree, just explain to me why you disagree. Don't just say some nonsense. And yeah, but if you agree, I also like hearing that as well. And I love everyone. And I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.